All right, I'm gonna get into a deeper dive now on the solution architect role, specifically as it relates to a integration project using the uh, the SimCloud API. Specifically for integration projects, this is SimCloud to any platform. There's lots of additional articles that cover integration projects and best practices. This particular one, if you think of, there's basically a bunch of factors that need to be considered and weighed with all the trade-offs. The solution architect is in the middle of the wheel with insights and understanding of all of those technical and business needs in both platforms, and basically designing a solution or a target for how that's going to work. So this is a critically important role for any complex integration project, particularly. It needs to be filled by one and only one person. The person's got to have strong technical skills. They've got to have the ability to learn and leverage from documentation, and also consultants or experts on each of the platforms. So a integration project basically has two platforms. I'm going to go to the diagram and come back up. So this is a solution architect for any complex integration. Um, in this particular example, the solution architects is considering the business needs. They're considering the SimCloud platform. They're considering the other software platform that's going to be integrated with SimCloud. They're considering the technical planner and working with the technical planner on what can be done to move data back and forth between these platforms. They're going to understand this platform and whether it has APIs or business object interfaces, or they're going directly into SQL to move data back and forth. They're going to understand the SimCloud platform API deeply and table structure. They're going to understand the table structure here and where data lives. They're going to decide what tables, who is the system of record for the data, what direction is it going to flow, one direction or both. They're going to get into table and field specific mappings and get into all the nuances of the field level mappings to know if I have a date field that needs to sync from this, and SimCloud has a different format for the date, how are we going to translate it? They're going to get into all that. They're going to get into tricky logic stuff of saying, hey, I want to sync customer specific pricing that's in my ERP platform, for example, into the SimCloud platform. The ERP has a pricing engine, SimCloud has a pricing engine. How am I going to translate that data to make them work and produce the same price for every single customer? They have to have deep understanding of this pricing engine, the business reasons why pricing was implemented this way. They got to understand whether or not it can be done. And if it can't, can they modify pricing without violating business rules or creating business problems? Or does one or both of the platforms need to be modified, or can it be handled in translation? All of that's done. It's tricky, and it's critically important to get done right. Depending on the complexity of the integration, the solution architect is the person that does that. So it's someone, again, that's going to have deep experience in technology and integration projects. They should know probably one of the platforms well, or if not, they've got to have consultants that they can do, and they're going to learn and get up to speed. So it's not acceptable that they would, if you look at, SimCloud speaks French and this other platform speaks German, just to give you an analogy. The solution architect is going to be proficient in both languages in order to do this job correctly. They can rely on experts in each language, which are the consultants on the SimCloud platform and this other platform, but they're going to have to become reasonably fluent in both languages to do this job properly. And then to make sure it's actually going to work and deliver the business need that's required. And then again, they're going to be working with a technical planner that's got to figure out how to build the mechanism that's going to move the data back and forth in a way that can be built, deployed, supported, monitored, and maintained long term. They're going to consider the project team getting it done as they're considering the game plan, and all the people, processes, the operators, and users involved in both platforms. They're going to factor that in when they design the solution. And when they're done, they will design a solution that solves all of these things because they deeply understand them all, and they come up with a solution that satisfies all of these things. So there's some tools that we have that are output and playbook stuff that we've got for the solution architect related to complex integrations. The two main tools they're going to output is a data mapping sheet and then a live data takeover plan. And I'll spend a few minutes talking through what those things are. So again, the solution architect, coming back to here, is they're going to design the target for the project, and the target's got to work, and they're factoring in both platforms, business goals, all that, and they're weighing the many trade-offs and coming up with the optimum balance of project complexity and doability of the project and the business needs being met. They're going to factor in the price and the risks involved in execution risk on the project, long-term maintenance, and monitoring operational risks. Those things should all be factored in. Compliance related concerns, things like that, if there's anything like that, should be factored in by the solution architect. So you can't miss when filling this role, filled by one and only one person. Again, strong technical and business skills. And I just put an assessment in here. This probably equates to 50% or more of the overall risk on an integration project, which is why I say you got to get this one right. If you get it right, everything else is easy. And if you get it wrong, it's going to be extremely difficult and probably fail the project. So we talked through that. The key responsibilities. So you already showed the diagram. They're sitting in the middle of those major components. They're going to create a data mapping sheet. So just to briefly go over this data mapping sheet. This is covered in another article, but the data mapping sheet basically is going to show what data needs to move back and forth for this integration. And there's basically going to be a tab for the table to table mappings. That's saying this SimCloud table or data entity is going to sync with this, an example, this ERP data entity. These are not filled out. This solution architect would fill these out. And they're going to identify that direction is going from the ERP to SimCloud, or this order data is going from SimCloud to the ERP in this example. So they're going to basically lay out effectively a tab. We recommend using a spreadsheet, and we've got examples that you can look at. But this is basically just going to show the data table to data table mapping that's going on. And the constraints you're going to have is what endpoints or how you can get data from the source system, and endpoints or how you can get data into the destination system. When SimCloud is the source or destination, the API is what you're going to be using, and the available resources are endpoint. If you find an endpoint that you don't have, our API is customizable through our pro services group to be able to create custom endpoints if you want, including multi-table endpoints. So that's a separate conversation. The field-to-field mapping, this basically gets into each one of the rows in this sheet. You'll get into a field level mapping sheet that's basically saying, in this case, sync an ERP to SimCloud as an example. This is the table in the ERP system. This is the field name. This is the field type. This is the logic I'm applying to the field. So is there special logic on the field? Do I need if statements or conditional logic? Do I need to translate data from one format to another set of expected values? And there's examples that we go through in this document. But this is the level of detail that's required to have a successful integration project and get it to come off clean. And they also have to know exactly what's going to happen in the destination system when they drop that data in. So in the example we gave on pricing logic, they're not just blindly mapping fields into fields in these tables. They know exactly what the logic is going to do when they drop it in, and they're putting together a game plan to make that work. So that's the field level mapping, and they will have that for each one of the tables that's in scope for the overall project. This would be a large ERP to SimCloud integration project that has all these tables. As an example, most projects would start out with less tables than that. And then they would create a prioritized sort order. So this is an example of saying, hey, if we're doing an ERP to SimCloud integration, keeping that example going, maybe we're going to deploy B2B customers and go live on SimCloud with B2B customers first, so we don't need to sync all the tax settings from the ERP. Or they might decide we're just going to switch over to Avalara for ERP tax settings so we can cut those out. But they would basically prioritize and phase the work of saying all the tax settings don't have to sync in the first phase. We're just going to get customer data and product data and then orders syncing from SimCloud into the ERP, for example. And then creating a live data takeover plan. This is a second a key document, which basically the purpose of this is to make sure that if one or both of the systems that are being integrated are already live and they already have users using them, you've got to make sure you can create sandbox environments potentially depending on what's available in the platform. That is available in SimCloud to have a sandboxed environment with the API connected to that. But the live data takeover plan is basically a way to not screw up the systems when you go live. So if you've got a source system that's going to be the new system to take over data that's in the destination system. So for example, if you're switching the ERPs that SimCloud is integrated with to a new ERP system, and that ERP's pricing engine is different, SimCloud already has pricing data synced from your current ERP in. That data has to be considered when you are cutting over to the new ERP system after it's already been tested. That live data cutover plan has to be considered. Are you going to take over records so you basically match the keys that are syncing from the new ERP system? Are you going to delete these records out? And if so, what's going to happen to the live site when it has no pricing configuration data for customers to be able to use? What is going to happen? So that might involve a temporary shutdown of the public site or kick users out. It might involve having to clear out the session data because session data caches pricing when customers log in, for example. So things like that would be part of the live data takeover plan that the solution architect is going to draft. And then once the as is goes through and things are learned, that will be revised before go live. But again, it's to make sure you're limiting the disruption for the users of any live platform that's involved in an integration project when you get to go live. And you're also making sure there's ways you're validating a post go live that you didn't actually screw up the platform. So you're doing testing or validation to make sure that the platforms are behaving for all the various users the way you expected post sync. And that's particularly true of the destination platform that's getting data from the source platform in a complex integration project. So all of that comes back to this critical solution architect role. They're also going to work with the project planner and project manager and basically turn these documents over to the technical planner who's going to then do a technical plan to make this work. And the solution architect may get brought back in periodically if they're not part of the recurring project team executing the project. If there's material changes or assumptions that were missed, they would bring the solution architect back in to validate that and make sure there's not blind spots in decisions being made by the technical planner or developers or other people. And so they're going to basically help refine the solutions if there's material changes. Typically, if there's small stuff, it's not a big deal, but material changes, they would get involved. This is just the example we were given with an ERP to SimCloud sync is just talking through. That's just a diagram showing all the factors the solution architect is factoring in when they're coming up with that solution. If you need help filling this role, or if you are a solution architect going, oh crap, can I do this role? We do have a pro services group that could potentially help, or partners that could potentially help. Our pro services group typically would not fill this role on a complex integration project. That's outside the scope of what they typically do. But we do have partners that we could potentially introduce you to that could fill the role, or we do certainly have consultants in our pro services group that can help provide deeper domain expertise on the SimCloud platform, particularly if you're getting into trickier logic and how do I map trickier logic like pricing engine logic or sales tax logic into the system. So good luck. Let us know if you need help.